The Board of Trustees meeting was called to order. It is 7:45. I'd like to call roll. Jerry Zamora.
Here.
Ms. Veronica Mendoza. Here. Ms. Petra Ramirez. Here. Ms. Aris Iglesias. Here. Mr. Juan Gonzalez.
Here.
Mr. Roy Vela.
Here.
And myself, Minnie Rogers. We have quorum. All 7 are present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by Ms. Petra Mendoza. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to the one state, one and indivisible. A moment of silence. Keep in mind all those who have passed on through COVID. Thank you. You may sit down.
Comments from the public, Ms. Gallardo?
Yes, ma'am, we have one. It is Victoria.
Okay.
And her topic will be expression of appreciation for self-business owners.
Okay. Okay, can you repeat the name?
Victoria Cantu.
Victoria Cantu for open forum, public comment, and she is from STC, a board member at STC, and she'd like to share appreciation. Cantu? Oh, okay, but before we go on, our board president is going to read some norms. Thank you.
As we do prior to public comments, I will now state that the board will now hear comments from those persons who have signed up to speak. This portion of the meeting is set aside for parents, students, and community members to speak to the board about any matter of interest to them pertaining to the school program. Each person may speak for no more than 5 minutes. There are several people wishing to speak on the same topic. Board policy, if Fed local requires that spokesperson represent any group of 5 or more people expressing the same view on the same topic. If more than 6 people signed up, I may reduce the speaking time to allow everyone to speak. Speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect to the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by their comments. While it is not in the board's intent to stifle public comments, speakers should be aware that if their statements violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, the speaker may be held legally responsible. If any speaker is unsure of the ramifications of the comments he or she wishes to make, the speaker may wish to consult first with his or her own legal advisor. The board reminds speakers that public comment is not the time to bring to the board complaints about a particular program or a particular employee. The board has adopted specific complaint policies, specific procedures for presenting those complaints. Those policies require a written complaint, administrative conferences, and a request that the item be placed on the agenda of a board meeting. We are now ready to hear Ms. Veronica Cantu from TSDC. Victoria, I apologize.
Good evening, Madam President, Vice President, members of the board, Dr. Perez, and community members. Each January, South Texas College recognizes the dedication and leadership of partnering school boards for their ongoing support of dual credit programs and our partnership opportunity for students. While the ongoing pandemic has disrupted our traditional appreciation breakfast, the college has provided small tokens of appreciation for our partnering school district board members. Please accept these gift boxes distributed to your superintendent's office on our behalf as a symbol of our gratitude for your ongoing commitment to our many successful partnerships. From South Texas College Board of Trustees, Civil Credit Programs, Administration, faculty, and staff, we thank you for navigating our students through tremendous success. God bless you. Thank you. Stay safe and good night. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Okay.
Okay, our next item is presentation to the board. And Mr. Rivera?
Good evening, President Rocha, members of the board, Dr. Perez, Superintendent. As per the workshop meeting last week, we presented an update on the Tom Landry Stadium construction project. We did communicate to Mr. Rick Hinojosa, Structural Engineering, that we request his attendance tonight to give us a full report. He did confirm that he was going to attend. However, at approximately 4 o'clock this afternoon, we were notified that he had a family emergency and would try to make it, but he was not sure. He stated that if he was not here, he may come present by Zoom, but I cannot see that he's logged in. Mr. Garcia and his staff communicated with him to give him, how to log in and present virtually. But as a few minutes ago, he has not contacted Mr. Garcia or any of his staff. He did provide a 2-page report, which should be before you on the ATR scans. And you may want to confer, with Mr. Hansen on this report. The last 2 paragraphs before limitations are pretty self-explanatory. What needs to be done?
Oh, I thought.
Mr. Rivera, so based on what we all received on this report and what we needed, how much of that information did you receive everything you all requested based on on the meeting we had last week?
No, sir. The only thing I received was what we received today is what you see before you. There's still questions on the entire project, as I mentioned last week, on civil engineering, other structural engineering items, MEP items that were addressed by Mr. Hinojosa on his assessment report. And this only addresses the piers. Yes, it's probably the most critical, but there are other areas of concern on the project that he repairs that still he has not addressed.
So basically, we can't move forward until we have that report from Mr. Hinojosa?
I believe that would be we could get further guidance from our legal counsel on that.
I believe that we need to get, I think this is enough. We've already been asking, time is going, we're going to, we're wasting our time. Eventually, we're gonna be needing our stadium, and it needs to be in full force as to where it can be used. We're not gonna have somebody get hurt. I think that we need to go through legal, address it with legal. And we need to start the legal process. We need to hold somebody accountable. We need to start moving, because this, I can go, maybe there was an emergency tonight, but we've been asking for these reports. We've been working on it. You've been, in communication with them, or not communication, but whatever, if they don't respond. But I feel, that we as a board, Dr. Perez, that we need to seek legal counsel now we need to get the wheels rolling this needs to be done.
And yes, and as mentioned last week during our board workshop, legal counsel has already intervened, Mr. Rivera. And
yes, we did send him a certified letter that we needed those reports, and it was addressed directly to Mr. Hinojosa. And there is a copy of that letter and a binder that administration has that we turned in.
So then I have to take this off or
With
what?
that letter, other correspondences,
So I have to
the
get it close.
TPR scan reports and other assessment reports with pictures that we've taken and he has taken.
So Mr. Rivera, tonight we were just going to listen to his report. He's going to give us a report, or were we voting on anything?
No.
No, at the time it was just,
Here is report.
so he's not here. Unfortunately, he didn't show up.
Uh-huh.
Probably having a family emergency. So that's why I asked you. So right now, at this point, there's not much we can do.
No, and the agenda, it's under presentation to the board. And they knew they were going to do a presentation to the board. And every effort was provided to give them our links and so forth. So we will have executive session. Mr. David Henson is not with us today, but he did have one of his partners here, online virtually. And we can certainly talk about it during executive session and seek guidance.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's where the step that we're on, the guidance is for the legal procedures that we need to go on, whatever needs to be done next.
Yes,
This is waiting, we cannot be waiting anymore on it.
absolutely.
I feel that the person responsible, we need to get to the bottom who's gonna be responsible in fixing it, because we already know that it needs to be fixed. That there's things there that need to be fixed and that we have.
We just need to know the extent of the fixing.
Yeah.
For now, we'll just wait for executive.
Thank you.
Dr. Davis,
Yes, ma'am.
superintendent's updates and recognitions.
Yes. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. For the superintendent's update, we'd like to thank all our teachers, our administrators, support staff, and all staff from the campuses and from all district divisions and departments for coming together to make sure that our children are successful in their academics. We know the research shows that with the pandemic and virtual learning, there will always be gaps. However, we know that our campuses have developed intervention programs, targeted plans to make sure that we close those learning gaps. And everybody is working very diligently to close those learning gaps. And we will be providing the board information on those campus plans. A huge hats off to our campuses, our technology department, our curriculum and instruction, and all departments that were involved, our PIMS department as well, in making sure that our economically disadvantaged data was taken care of. We were grateful that our state, our commissioner, the Texas Education Agency, extended the deadline to middle of January. Normally, it's at the end of October to turn in this data. Our economic disadvantage percentage affects funding tremendously. As we were talking about our seniors. Our seniors, if they're economically disadvantaged, they may be able to qualify for more grants, more scholarships to be able to pursue higher level education. In the same manner, we're able to write more grants, receive more federal and state funding per pupil allocation if we have higher percentages. Another item that gets affected tremendously is accountability. And that is state academic accountability when our students take either the start or the end of course. And accountability is tremendous. So we went from an 82% last year to an 86%. And you may think it's just 4 points. That's a huge gain. And we asked Mr. Garcia to work with his staff and provide us with a report as to where we were. And which parents, let's look at our longitudinal data, which parents had identified children in past years as economically disadvantaged and were no longer. And also to reach out to parents that had not completed those forms. And so those reports were sent to the campuses, and curriculum instruction also followed up. Dr. Roberts, our executive directors, and that's why we were able to see that huge increase. But at the campus level, it was like an army, okay? The phone calls, the reaching out to our parents, and so forth. So we know that there's probably more economically disadvantaged families in our area. Some families choose not to disclose, but this was a huge effort. And like Dr. Roberts says, and we always say, it was a total team effort. But having those reports and identifying, zeroing in on those that needed to receive the calls made the work even lighter. So thank you, technology, for doing those reports, and our staff at the front lines at the campuses for making those phone calls, because we are allowed to complete the forms while the parent is on the line. So that's huge. And also, technology has also generated reports on failures in terms of 6 weeks and so forth. And those reports have also been provided to our helpline. If for some reason they have dead time where children are not calling, then they're going to be reaching out, whether online or phone call, to the children that are not making the grade, offer the assistance. And those reports have also been provided to the campuses to be able to zero in with the children that need the help. So again, we're thanking all of our staff. Another update is with IT, and it seems that today, we're bragging a lot on IT. I know that there's been times that we brag on finance, CNI, support services. However, right now, because of remote instruction, we received 1,200 Chromebooks. We're only pending 400 Chromebooks. That's a huge job. And then, we get all of our staff with technology, our warehouse, they receive them. If they have to be coded and so forth, then our technologists, they tag them, they put the cases and get them ready for our children. Also, through the grant that was written for the T-Mobile project, 10 million, we received 2,319 hotspots. So we have enough, more than enough, to be able to provide for our children. That for some reason, the parents have lost jobs, can no longer afford that internet. We've got them covered. Another item that has been a huge need is the fact that in our gymnasiums at Mission High School, Veteran High School, and even at central office, the calls drop, our cell phone calls drop, or we can't make phone calls. And that's been a need for several years. And we've been looking at that for quite a while, and finally we said we got to purchase it because it's very needed. So our IT staff have been working with vendors. They walked the schools, and pretty soon we are going to be putting in a PO, possibly this week or next week, to be able to purchase those repeaters that will give signals to our cell phones. And that will be for the gymnasiums at Mission High School, Veteran High School, and also central office. Many times you may see some of our staff outside making calls, and people may think, oh, is it personal? Most of the time, it's not. We use our phones for business. And so it's easier to give them our cell phones than the office phone at times, because sometimes we're in different buildings or in different parts of the building. So that's going to be a huge accomplishment. But we know that academics is always at the heart of everything we do. And before we left on break, we challenged our children and our campuses to work on their online mathematics program. And they did that during the winter holidays. And today, I'm very happy to report campuses that surpassed our expectations. So the campuses with the most Imagine Math student activity during the winter break and Imagine Learning is pleased to recognize the following campuses. First place, Mims Elementary. Second place, Midkiff Elementary. Third place, O'Grady Elementary. Top Junior High School, Alton Memorial Junior High School. And top high school, Mission High School. And again, this was the most Imagine Math student activity. The other competition was campuses with the most Imagine Math usage time during the winter break. And Imagine Learning is to recognize the following schools. First place, O'Grady Elementary. Second place, Cantu Elementary. Third place, Cavazos Elementary. Top Junior High School, Mission Junior High School. And top high school, Mission High School. Again, this was for usage time during the winter break. Now, the next category, campuses with the most Imagine Math lessons passed during the winter break. Imagine Learning is pleased to recognize the following school campuses. First place, Cantu Elementary. Second place, Castro Elementary. Third place, O'Grady Elementary. Top Junior High School, Mission Junior High School, and top high school, Veterans Memorial High School. And again, this was the most lessons passed. Campuses with the most lessons passed year to date, from the beginning of the year to now. Imagine Learning is pleased to recognize the following school campuses. First place, Cantu Elementary. Second place, Marcel Elementary. Third place, Salinas Elementary. Top Junior High School, Mission Junior High School. And top high school, Veterans Memorial High School. Congratulations to these campuses, these classroom teachers, and administrators. We're very, very proud of the work that you're doing and for your recognition. And another celebration that we're always very pleased to celebrate is our school board month, which is January. And this is our opportunity to thank our school board for everything they do. They put in many, many hours with no pay, and they do it because of children and to make an impact for children. However, just like almost everything these days, our normal activities associated with School Board Recognition Month have been hampered by COVID-19 pandemic. However, the same pandemic has also shown a spotlight on the important role the Board of Trustees plays in the district operations and responses in urgent situations and in navigating a district through the rough waters. That makes this year's theme for School Board Recognition Month even more relevant, navigating to success. In various ways, our district, campuses, staff, and students have focused on the role of the Board of Trustees and how they have helped the responses of Mission CISD to the pandemic. This evening, we have the honor of presenting each one of you board members some tokens of appreciation from the schools and our students. Yes, amongst the baskets and boxes are items created by our very own students just for you, our Board of Trustees. That process in and of itself presented a few challenges for our schools, and we would like to highlight one of the creative ways a campus found a video shared on the Bryan Elementary School Facebook. Would you show it, please?
Where's Mr. Burley?
He's over there.
On behalf of the school board, we're all honored to be here and serve. We need to serve every day. That's listening to everybody complain or be happy or whatever, but we're here.
Okay.
But if we can get something that I walked in and saw all this packages here, the teachers have had so much to do, the principals, everyone, and yet here they took the time to do things for us.
Yes.
So we appreciate it very, very much from all of us.
Yes.
It's very nice.
And I'd like you to note that, my son attends Bryan, but I did not ask Bryan Elementary to do this, please. As a matter of fact, the principal sent it to Mr. Verley and, and it was shared with us and we were amazed and we said, this sounds professional, and so we asked, and our Bryan music teacher did this with our children.
And that's what's so
And
amazing.
that was so amazing about it. But we didn't ask them to do it. They did it from the bottom of their hearts to thank you. But, this was music. And every campus has a different talent.
Sure.
So what you have in those boxes are the various talents and gifts and abilities that all of our campuses have. So to conclude, our Board of Trustees are true community servants, elected by the community and serve as the community voice for Mission CISD. They are volunteers who spend countless hours in meetings, reviewing reports, studying data, and working as a team in the service of our 15,000 plus children who attend our schools. Trustees, we thank you from the bottom of our heart for our services for your services and your commitment to our children. I also want to thank each one of you personally for being that team of 8 and working alongside. We know that we don't always agree, and we have a lot of very good discussions in closed session, but iron sharpens iron. And I consider you my mentors. I consider you my go-to, and my colleagues, my friends, my bosses, and I couldn't have a better team. So thank you for all that you do for our children and our staff.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
If you haven't seen this video, it's all over Facebook. So I saw it first.
Yes, yes.
I have to add that I was blown away when I found out that it was their music. Really did.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
it sounded
yes,
wonderful too. Okay, was that it from?
That was it. Thank you so much. And
We're moving on. Oh, go ahead.
yes,
Go ahead.
we're moving on to discussion and possible action. Ms. Garcia?
Item number 1 is a recommendation and approval of the selection for, we have 4 positions, vacancies. Recommendations for the graphic and media arts specialist, the assistant principal for Alton Memorial Junior High School, special education diagnostician, and Mission High School athletic coordinator. And these items we are recommending be discussed in executive session.
Okay.
Item number 2 is consideration and possible action regarding the sale of real property. And I'd like to give the board an update on that. We are going to need a little bit more time. One of the properties, number 1, we are updating the comparable sales values in the area because the appraisal that we have is almost a year old. And the appraiser has notified us that prices have changed in that time frame. So he will be updating that value so we can have a more current appraisal to go off of. And then second of all, we are working with bond legal counsel as well as the Texas Education Agency. The larger property, the 52 acres, was purchased with bond funds, so we need clearance on that. And then we're also working with Mr. Hanson and his team in developing the resolutions. Once we have the appraisal value and the clearance from TEA and bond counsel, we will be able to fill in that information into the resolution, and we'll bring that back at a later time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Garcia.
Okay, the next items to consider, the board will consider and may act on the following items under consent agenda. Any trustee may request a removal of an item from the consent agenda for individual consideration and action.
Questions, anyone?
Mr. President?
Yes.
If there's no questions, we can go ahead and accept the agenda from 1 to 9C.
I don't need a motion for that, do I?
I'll make a motion.
Yes.
I have a motion from Mr. Jerry Zamora to approve
Second that.
the consent agenda from 1 through 9,
9C.
9C. Have the second?
I second.
Seconded by Rivera. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's majority. Thank you.
Now, before we go into executive session, we have Board of Trustees information items. We have financial reports for the month of November 2020, general fund, debt service, and self-funded health insurance. Ms. Ruiz, would you like to cover those items?
Those items, good evening, Madam board members. Madam Superintendent, these items were discussed last week at the board workshop, and the board, I need to go over them. I can, I'll be happy to do that.
Ms. Reese covered all of that last workshop last week. Does anybody have any questions for her? No one?
Okay.
Looks like we're
Okay, and these are just information items. Thank you, Ms. Reese. Moving on to the next items, it's important dates to remember. February 3rd, Board of Trustees Workshop at 6:30 PM. February 10th, regular Board of Trustees meeting at 7 PM. So, if there's any questions on those dates?
No.
Okay, then, we can go into executive session. Ms. Rogers?
It is 8:20. We're now going into executive session. Private consultation with board attorney, Texas Government Code 551.071, deliberation regarding real property. Closed meeting, a governmental body may conduct a deliberation in an open meeting, would have a detrimental effect on the position of governmental body in negotiations with a third person. Texas Code 551.072. Deliberate the employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear a complaint or charge against an officer or employee. Texas Government Code 551.074. We are now in executive session and it is 8:21.
Okay, if we may dismiss everyone except Mr. Rivera and Ms. Garcia.
I don't care.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm saying right now, I defended you. Always.
Always.
You're right there, but I don't know.
No matter what anybody else says.
Right. Any water?
Let me know when you're ready.
I will help you, ma'am. I thought of that when I saw her. Yeah. Who in the world will carry that?
I know, well, yeah,
I'll clear you up.
Are you okay with that, Coach?
No, I have no problem.
No, but
Yeah.
with your answer?
Yeah,
That's all I'm asking.
that's good.
Because we can still wait.
No. Annie is.
Do it. Was perfect for the book. That Leon is that Williams guy? He's so far down here.
We went.
Fight for the guy.
We're back from executive session. It is 10:04 PM. Dr. Pettis?
Yes, ma'am. Going through the agenda for the position of graphic media arts specialist, the administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve Rolando Garza.
Do I have motion?
I so move.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Petra Ramirez, seconded by Roy Vela. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Sounded like everybody.
That was just me.
For the Alton Memorial Assistant Principal position, the administration recommends that the Board of Trustees hire Christy Ayala for this position.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Betty Mendoza, seconded by
Iris.
Iris.
Wow.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's like no whammies, no whammies, no whammies.
Item C, special education diagnostician. The administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve Jessica Salinas.
I so move.
Second.
Who moved? I'm sorry.
Petra.
Jessica Salinas.
There's a motion on the floor by Ms. Petra Ramirez, seconded by Mr. Jerry Zamora. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item D, for the position of Mission High School Athletic Coordinator, the administration recommends Daniel Longoria.
I second.
Was the motion by Mr. Juan?
Correct.
Motion by Mr. Juan Gonzalez, seconded by
Petra.
Ms. Petra Ramirez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
They're all approved. All
Congratulations to all of our employees, our new employees, and those that have also received promotions. Moving on, the Board of Trustees had some questions with our insurance carrier or representative, Ms. Ruiz.
Thank you, Madam. We have Mr. Zach Gingrich, connected. I understand there were some questions, just so that we can discuss this item one more time as far as coverage and other things that voluntary traffic cover. Zach, are you here with us?
I am, yes ma'am. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
So what's the question?
The question.
Zach, would you please, share with the board what kind of coverage employees will be having, if they decide to purchase, this additional coverage for emergent and non-emergent transportation? And what, how will the deductibles come into the picture as far as out-of-pocket expenses for the employees?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Perez, administration, and members of the audience. As presented last week, there was an RFQ received for MASA medical transportation. This included both emergency and non-emergency or non-emergent transportation services under for the health insurance. So the way the current health insurance is structured is that any medical transportation, whether that be emergent or non-emergent, employees are required to pay the full cost of their deductible, and then the co-insurance thereafter once the deductible is satisfied. What MASA does is they provide a service on a voluntary basis that will allow employees to voluntarily elect into this program. And if they do so at this point, MASA will take all out-of-pocket expenses regardless if a deductible has been met, and also regardless if it is in or out of network medical providers. So within Hidalgo County, there is about 40 ground transportation medical services, and then outside of Hidalgo County, there is a number of air transportations that do come for any life flights that need to take place in San Antonio, Corpus, or Houston, or surrounding communities. So what this program does, again, on a voluntary basis, does allow employees to elect into this program. And if they experience any kind of out-of-pocket expense, whether it be in or out of network, regardless of any of the plans they're on, this program will take all out-of-pocket expenses off of the employees. It is completely voluntary, as mentioned last week. So any employees that do enroll in this is completely in any medical expenses, for any medical transportation, where it be non-emergent or emergent, in or out of network, MASSA will take care of the full cost of any transportation services.
Zach, hi, this is Roy Vela. Listen, I was looking through the documentation that was provided to the board a couple minutes ago before, right after we approved it, and I saw some information where there was 3 tiers and there was some deductibles and out of pockets, but I just wanted to make sure, because we were informed last week that it was going to be $14 per person. It would include the family, but then when I saw the deductibles, I just wanted to confirm, and that's why I brought it up earlier, to make sure that the employees were not going to pay a deductible or didn't have to pay a deductible or meet a deductible in an out of pocket. Just to reconfirm.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Brought it up.
Just to reconfirm, if they do participate in this program, regardless of the 3 medical plans they're on, regardless if it's employee coverage themselves, whether they have dependents, spouse, or full family coverage, if they participate in this program, there is no out-of-pocket expenses back to them.
Okay, no problem. I just saw the out-of-pocket dollar amount and the deductible, and that's why I questioned it right away.
Sure. Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. The participation in this program will waive any, or MASSA will cover any out-of-pocket expenses for the employees, regardless of coverage tier or medical plan election.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the clarification.
Okay. Zach, thank you so much. That was a very, very good explanation. We appreciate it. Thank you.
It is my pleasure. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening.
I still have a question, hold on a minute.
Hold on, so
Why, I mean, we put then on the paper that they have those specifications there as to the 70% of the deductible. Why was it included? Is that part of the contract or?
Wait, she's trying to tell you something.
We, when we were, putting the executive summary together, we wanted to provide a rationale to the board as to why this item was coming forward. And so this is, we wanted to let you know what we currently have and how we can help some, our employees to minimize those out-of-pocket expenditures. It was just, pertinent, I'm giving you the background information so that we could secure your consideration and support in approving this agenda item. So I see now from your perspective that it's needing. We'll just do a better work, next time when we're putting it together.
No problem. Thank you so much for the clarification.
Thank you, Yolanda, because, to me, it was like, okay, I see the deductible, so, I mean, everybody's gonna say they told us no. But thank you for clarifying. Thank you so much.
Is there any further business to come before the board? Thank you all very much for your presentations and for being present today. And this meeting is now adjourned. It is 10:12.
I'd like to make a motion.
All those.
I second that.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Likewise, thank you.
Oh, I think you already come down.
Right here, Craig.
Yeah.
Right here. The middle, deal with the name, our names.
Oh, yeah.
For the hearing on the performance.
It's not very long.
Really?
So,
We've got so many nice gifts. It's good. So nice.
like, oh my God, what's this?
Dr. Perez.
Okay.
This meeting will come to order. This is the public hearing on the Texas Academic Performance Report. It is Wednesday, January the 20th, and it is 5. In accordance with Governor Abbott's declaration of COVID-19 health threat and action to temporarily suspend certain provisions of the Texas Open Meeting Act, the quorum of the District Board of Trustees will hold its regular board meeting by video conferencing or teleconference. The public will have the option to attend and participate in the meeting remotely or by video conference or by teleconference. Members of the public may access this meeting by checking our mission website. Mr. Roberts, are you?
Yes.
Yes.
Am I ready to start? Okay. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board
Evening.
and audience. This evening, we are going to come before you in compliance with Texas Education Code 39.3067, which requires every board of trustees to publish an annual report describing the district's academic performance, or TAPR report, campus performance objectives, report of violent or criminal incidents, and information received under the Texas Education Code 51.043E from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. We do have to hold a public hearing about the TAPR report, the Texas Academic Performance Report, and that is what this evening. This is a report that must be widely disseminated throughout on our district webpage. This evening, the areas that are involved are the areas that I will be covering, which are the annual TAPR report, the PEAMS Financial Standard Report, which is the overall report that we have to report to the board, has been covered. That was covered by the model release on October the 4th. I will cover the district accreditation status, the campus performance. Recall we presented those usually in October over two weeks, and every campus presents their campus improvement plans and their objectives. And I have the report on on violent or criminal incidents, the student performance in post-secondary institutions. This data will be new because it is the number 6 data is always lagging data. And so as you will recall, in 2019-20, the state suspended the STAR assessments. So the report that I'm going to go through this evening, I'm going to go through kind of quickly on the STAR scores because it is data from 2018-19, not the 19-20 since we did not test last year. And on the one hand, it is a little bit of moot, I want to say moot data because the situations are going to be so different again. And, we'll have to take in the COVID slide, the pandemic. And this year, we probably have heard we receive a rating. So we do know, and as educators, we know we will receive scores from the students that test. A caveat, of course, is going to be how many students we will report to campus to test, because all of our TOPAs and all of our STAR testing, even though we're testing online, they have to report to campus to test. They cannot test from home.
Okay.
And so I will go kind of quickly to the STAR data. And the last part is the TAPR glossary. So what I'm going to be reporting this evening is always compiled by TEA for every district and every campus. It's student data, student assessment data. The TAPR, Texas Academic Performance Report, is published in 2 ways. We get a PDF so we can download, and the other one is an online report so you can just download sections of it by campus. And they are all available on the TA's website as well as on our CISD website. So all of our campus and district reports are there. I'm following the format that we're required to follow. So the first page, of course, is your cover page, and it has the accountability ratings. So if you see over here, it shows us that not rated declared state of disaster. It does show us that we do need approach and need assistance in special education. This is the second year in a row that we have that rating. And as you'll recall, we have made changes in our special education department, and they're on a good pathway. We also have to report the ASVAB. We did not have to apply for a waiver for the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test and several of the other components that are required because we had done those already prior to COVID last year. And then we have distinction designations. Of course, this past year, we will not have any designation because we STAR assessed. Sorry. Okay, so the first thing on the report, you have to report all 3 performance ratings, which are our approaches, needs, and masters. And then we have to report for each assessment, every grade level, every subject. The STAR academic growth is only calculated in reading 4 through 8 and English 2, math 4 through 8, and algebra 1, because of course it's growth. So the student had to have a prior year before we can check their growth. And it's reported by subject and grade. the performance data, all the 2019 accountability data, and all the subsets that we need to target. We do have 13 subpopulations that we must report data on, and most of them we're very familiar with, which are our special education, economic disadvantage, and our ELs. And we consistently hear about those populations because those are the ones. Our federal accountability, which is domain 3, ESSA. And the other populations, of course, are all of our ethnicities in our district, primarily is Hispanic. We do have a few African Americans, some white students, and we'll see all of the student data at the end, which is also part of the presentation. Okay, starting here, this is not really part of the taper, but I wanted to go ahead and include it in your packets. This is the accountability that we first received from the state. And so this is really our academic indicators. So you can see exactly how every campus rated in 2019. What you will notice on this page, there are some areas that don't look too good, but we are rated on domain 1, 2A, or 2B. So we have 3 chances, and they take the highest of those 3 ratings, and then domain 3, which is our federal accountability. So these are all of our campus accountabilities. We did have campuses that, we were working with because we did have some B campuses. And one of the things that I know in our curriculum instruction, they always hear me say, our rating for 2019 was a B, an 88. I tell them, it's so sad to hear that because we are an A++ district and we do things so well and we're very intentional, and yet our accountability has been at an 88 or an 89. So we really are trying really hard to get over that. I do want to take a moment and introduce those of you that do not know our Director of Testing and Evaluation, Mr. Jerry Gonzalez, joined us this evening. And so he's the one that does calculators and things like that. And he and I work very closely together several times a day, checking on all the testing and things like that. And we were very confident, probably shouldn't say, but that we were pretty confident that last year, if we had taken the STAR test and it had been normal, we were on the road for a solid A. We were very confident of that. This was the year before, 2019, our accountability. So you can see, and we were rated on domain 2B and our closing the gaps. Closing the gaps, again, we had a C there, and we know that's the area we really have to address. That is our ELs and our special education. Now I'm going to start going over the STAR data, which is, there's 3 slides for the STAR data. It's approaches, needs, and masters. And oftentimes, when we talk about our service leadership and our accountability, we always talk about 90, 60, 30. So we want all of these scores at the 9. So I have the state, the region, and then I have 2019, the previous year, in special ed, economically disadvantaged in our EL population. So I'm not going to read every score. I'll give you a moment just to look. All of these scores, we wanted them at 90 or higher, and we were on the way.
Dr. Rowan, would you tell us what page you're on?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on page 10.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize. Thank you. Okay. The next page will be our needs grade level or above. This is where we would love for our campuses to be at 60% or higher in the needs. And then the next page is our masters. We want all of our campuses, of course, to be at 30% or above. So we do have work to do. And we're on the road to doing that. This year, of course, our priority has been our social emotional, making sure that we're trying to cover as many gaps as possible, but our children and our families are going through quite a bit. I'm not trying to make excuses, but the reality is we do know it's a different situation. So this year is the baseline. The state is going to reset that. And according to how we do this year, it's going to serve as our baseline for next year. So the next time we'll receive accountability will not be until 2021.
So the accountability will come in 2021. So this one, the other one will come in 2021?
We are going to assess this year. We will have assessments. We will do the STAR. We will do the TELPAs. The kids do have to come on campus. One of the big things that we were concerned about was participation. We have to be at 95% of the kids coming and testing. We did our December ELCs. We had less than 50% that were reporting to campus. So this year, the state has already told us we're not going to get a rating this year. We're not going to get a letter grade. They're going to kind of like looking at having a reset year. And so that's what we were looking at this year. Our concern, of course, is how many kids are going to be able to come onto campus, how many parents are going to allow their kids to come onto campus to test. And so, we want as many as possible to come onto campus, but at the end of the day, it's a parent decision whether they're going to allow, if they've kept their children home, the whole year in remote instruction. You know, it just depends on the situation, whether or not they'll be bringing their children to test on campus. And that is one of the things that we have to, the state has already told us there will be no testing at home. It has to be at a site.
Right.
Yes.
And Dr. Roberts, I've been getting numerous calls that people want to know, the parents want to know, how are we going to be able to keep these kids safe as far as how they're testing?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And how they're going to be seated, you know, there are going to be a lot of kids in one room, et cetera.
We had a good, I'm sorry, in December, we had the retesters that came in December and tested on the EOCs, Algebra 1, English 1, English 2, Biology, and US History. And so the campuses were extremely remarkable. Of course, we give them parameters. You're not going to have 30 students in a class. They have to wear their mask, they have to socially distance. So we were testing around 9 to 10 students in a classroom. And so that's something else that we will continue doing, because our first priority, of course, is the safety and well-being of our students and our staff.
Yeah.
So even when we do test, what we did decide as a district, a curriculum instruction department, the state allows paper testing, which we've always done, but they give us specific days that you have to test math on this day. You have to test reading on this day. What we did this year is I talked to Mr. Gonzalez, our CNI, and we decided, let's go ahead and go with online testing, because what the state did with online testing, they gave us like a 5-week window. So that helps us, because if a student, you know, of course, we're going to try to test as far as like, we watched the numbers with the pandemic, of course, working very closely with Ms. Garcia and support services and Dr. Pettis. And so we'll have that testing window. So we'll be watching that, but that'll give us 5 weeks. We'll have until June the 2nd to test this year.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
On the online compared to the written test, is it different? Because what I've been hearing that the online is much harder than the written. I don't know if it's a myth or.
Okay, I want to say that's the myth, but I will have Mr. Gonzalez address that, because it's the same test. We kind of like, we noticed even with our EL learners, they have so many more supports online as opposed to your written test. But Mr. Gonzalez, as far as the difference, you can go ahead and come up.
They're actually the same.
Okay.
But now the online test has evolved quite a bit. So now the supports that are given online are actually much better than because they have, like, for example, a text to speech. So if a student, like a bilingual student, has problems with it, they click on certain words and the computer will read it for them. So it depends on their accommodations and what they have. But now the tests are, you know, have evolved quite a bit. So as far as it being harder, the other thing is, at this point, that's what the students are practicing. That's what they're doing all day.
But it would be the first time they did it online.
With the STAR testing, sir, we have started this year all of our grading period assessments, and even right now this week is benchmarks. They're testing online. We're using Eduphoria, so now the kids are logging in. The teacher releases the coordinator releases to the teachers release to the students, and they're monitoring them. They're testing online from home. So the kids are getting used to that, to testing. Yeah, I would never want them to, you know, just walk in one day and, okay, all of a sudden.
Just jump into the technology.
We would always want to make sure that however we're going to administer the test is the way we've practiced the whole year. Because one thing is content and knowledge, the other thing is how you're testing.
So your recommendation would be to do it online?
Yes, and one of the big things with that is that we get a real long testing window. So if, you know, some can't.
That's what I was thinking, because
Closure, or things.
if you're gonna have 9 per classroom, how are you gonna fit them all?
Exactly. And so I want to assure you as a board, and I know you know that, with Dr. Pedersen and our support services division, we are always very concerned about the safety and security of the students, and we would always make those decisions in the best interest of our children. So nobody would ever be at risk coming in. We feel very confident about that. Yes.
And also, parents always have a choice too. Okay, we know that we have a lot of children that are participating in their instruction remotely.
Yes.
However, we will make every accommodation possible to make sure that we abide by every CDC guideline every TA guideline and district guideline, because our district guidelines are even above and beyond. Thank you.
I have one more question. I'm sorry, Dr.
That's fine. We want to make sure that.
But what about the teachers that don't want to come in and help administer the exam?
Okay, that's a totally different
Yes.
category. So, as far as that, that's something that HR takes care of, whenever everybody is asked to come back in. I think, like I know in our department, I know teachers are different, but even with our department, when we need people to come in, I had to call secretaries to come in this week to help with devices. I will say that we have fantastic teachers, fantastic employees that, unless there's some underlying condition,
Yes. And I can add some information, and then I'll have our Deputy Superintendent for Support Services. One of the things that we did ask the commissioner, and his response was, we are required to have certified teachers administer the exam, and you superintendents have staff on contract that are certified and must perform those duties. If individuals are not able to perform those duties, then there are other kinds of things that we can do. And I know that Ms. Garcia and her staff with HR have been providing a lot of assistance. Ms. Garcia?
One of the things that we do is we work with the campus principals to provide them training on the various options that employees have. Every case is going to be different. So what will happen is when principals reach a situation, they will refer the employee to human resources and we'll find out the particulars. In some cases, they're able to get ADA accommodations, and of course there's a process involved in that, in getting that medical certification. Or they also have access, to their personal leave, their sick leave, and so forth that they can utilize. But we'll work with every employee and counsel them, and in some cases they've agreed to go back and in some cases it may be a situation of I can't this week, but I can do it another day. We've had those situations. And talking to them, reassuring them, first thing we want to do is let them know, because a lot of them have not stepped foot on the campus. So they're not aware of all the safety guidelines that are in place. The big distance between the students and the staff, it's a very safe environment. So we tell them about all those things that we're doing daily on a daily basis. And usually that's enough to encourage them to come in.
And the only reason why I'm bringing it up is it's been brought to my attention.
Absolutely.
And that's why I bring it up. But I wanted for it to come out here. That way they can know that's one.
Absolutely.
I have a question here as to, in the high schools, our seniors, are we getting them, what they need? Because, I know that not all senior teachers are going in, not all the staff is going in. So, and I know that you all are working very hard to get them there, because we need to make sure that these kids are college ready, really. Because, it's a struggle throughout the world, really. But, how do we work it if we, like you said, you all yourselves, put yourselves out there to take over, you all have to go test?
We will do whatever we need.
You assist, right?
I'm going to say that and I had this conversation with someone earlier today. We don't ask things that we ourselves would like to do. And so one of the things, that's a good point with seniors, and, we have an,
Dr. Roberts, get closer to the mic.
We have an accountability with CCMR. And so the executive directors and I meet with the campuses once a month. They get the calendar at the beginning of the year. They know this is the dates that we're meeting on CCMR. We track the data. We say, okay, how can we help you? We have special ed there. We have CTE because that's how they get points. We have Mr. Hill for dual enrollment. So we meet as a team. And so I will say that we are pretty much where we were last year. We just had a meeting a couple of weeks ago. I think it was it was in January. And we're pretty much like where we were last year at this time. They all have a plan. Our counselors, we have amazing, counselors that really help us track that data. Our campuses, assistant principals, they know. And, you know, everyone here works very closely together. And what I love about the way we have things now arranged is that support services helps us tremendously. At the end of the day, they take care of like all of these things with employees, with things like that, so we can focus on curriculum and instruction. And so we're, you know, with one big team effort. It's like even now we got all the devices in, so the technology department, they've been really working hard to get everything out. It's a total team, and we all communicate very well through teams, so we're communicating constantly. And I do think, like, you do receive word, you know, from high school, that some of the seniors, I mean, they're doing if they need to be on Ingenuity, they can do that from home. We have our at-risk counselors that help to track that data and make sure kids are on track. And so I do think that everybody's working very hard toward that goal of success. And we are very much targeted about the graduation rate.
Yeah, that's what.
Yes, we are very targeted.
All these kids that are below and have not been doing their work, they're being brought in by their counselors.
Exactly.
Right, so.
They're coming in.
I mean, here are AROs too that will help us communicate with those.
So we have a lot of support, like the AROs are under support services, which is a great support. They help us with attendance, they help us with leavers. Because even though we get a dropout rate and that window closes usually a snapshot at the end of September, our AROs are the ones, along with our parent liaisons, everybody working together to make sure we're recovering the students to get back into school. And we have those monthly leaver meetings as well. How many students withdrew this month? Why do we know that they enrolled somewhere else? And we have all of that follow-up. I think that what we do have in place are good systems, and so we need to tighten those systems and make sure that we're all, and we are pretty much on the same page. Are there any other questions?
I think I'm just going to make a comment, and I think that for the most part, I don't see many complaining, at least I don't think they are, especially those that have not come into school at all, working out of home. And I believe that each and every one of them knows that this is in the best interest of each and every student. So they are willing to come in and support our students. So I don't see us having much of a big problem in asking them to come in and help us out.
When the time comes, you know, and they need to, you know, we've been very conservative about that, you know, about who needs to come in and things. Even with central office, there's certain departments that we say, okay, only if you have to come in. I mean, they call me and say, can I come in and do this or that? I'm here, okay, submit your disclosure, and we see how many people are here, and it's clear with Mr. Castaneda and things like that. So, and I do want to say kudos to Mr. Castaneda because he's been very diligent about keeping everybody safely distant and safe and things like that. So I think that we have a really strong team and everybody's working in the best interest of the students. And so.
Yeah, we are. I think we are at the top working, you know, you all are working very hard and everybody's really working. There's some things that come up, you know, and we just question it, but, you know, thank you to everybody that's, I mean, teachers and, I mean, really from the top to the bottom, from the superintendent to the editors, I mean, you all are doing an amazing job as best as we can, but we always have to stay focused as to that priority in this district, which is CISD, are our children.
That's absolutely.
And that's where we need to get them so they can be ready for the next level, regardless of what it is. I mean, we know that we're going to be probably behind, but, you know, I'm sure that we will get massive tutoring and mentoring when we are ready for that stage.
Yes. And I want to say that I do think that this year we've implemented the multi-age classrooms in several of our campuses. They have a lot of support. And I was mentioning to the executive directors the other day, I said, you know, it's really awesome because I do think when more kids come onto campus, we may not have all the multi-age, but when we come to tutoring and we come to things like that, we are going to need to start looking at that, you know, thinking outside the box of how to address the needs and the gaps of some of our kids, because some will have more gaps than others. And so those are the things that we will have to be addressing when we come back and do more in-person instruction. Okay. Do you want me to go ahead because I have, yes.
Go ahead.
Dr. Roberts, pick up the mic so it's closer to you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Better?
Yes.
Because when you get away from it, I think that's.
We lose you.
I get so nervous, that's why I'm sorry.
Relax.
Oh, you're not nervous. You know your stuff.
Thank you. Okay, our next section, I just want you to see this part. This is just a bar graph of the same data. It shows you the approaches, that it shows you for all grade levels. And then the first two bars, of course, are state and region. Then you have our maroon for Mission CISD. You can tell at a glance our needs are special education. And so this is at the purchase level. Then okay, where's the AI when I need it, you know, to read my mind instead?
Are you fine? Do you want to go forward or back?
Yes, forward, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. I'm glad we're neighbors. Our next graph, of course, was saying that this is at the needs level and then our mastery level. And I'm not trying to go through quickly, but you have it in front of you if you have questions. This is the data that we must present by grade level. So we have our third through English 2 for the language arts. And the first bar is from 2019, the second bar is 2018. And then we have the purple is our approaches, the blue is our needs, and the green is our master's level. This is the ELAR. Then we have our math by grade level. We have our writing by grade level, and remember that writing is only 4th grade and 7th grade. And then science by grade level, which is 5th grade, 8th grade, and biology. Then we have social studies, which is 8th grade, and US history. We have to do a 2-year comparison of our end of course exams, which are our 5 end of course. And so you can see the first bar is 2019, the maroon, and then 2018 from the previous year. We're pretty steady as far as our results. We know that English 1 and English 2 are always our big area of need. So we now, you know, the board approved and we have interventionists. Now we're always checking that support, how we can help our ELs in high school. One of the things, you know, we've been working with our bilingual director, you know, like I said, we need to think outside the box with our EL. So she is working on some things with STC, with our recent immigrants, so that we can try to really meet their needs and get them, because when they walk across the stage of graduation, we want them ready for life. This is the next part of the TAPR report is on our progress. This is your academic growth from year to year, student by student. So if they were in 4th grade compared to how they did in 3rd grade. Our success initiative, of course, is on 5th grade and 8th grade. As you'll recall, the state, of course, says the students have 3 chances to pass 5th grade STAR and 3 chances to pass 8th grade. Otherwise, you go before grade placement committee to be promoted up. So that's our success initiative. Then we have our bilingual English as a second language and our STAR participation. That's what I was alluding to earlier. I was a little bit worried but the state is waived or is trying to waive with the feds the participation rate. So this is our ELAR and our math. 2019 and 2018 compared. Then we have our non-proficient students. This is a student that had not passed the previous year, and now we always target those for accelerated instruction, and how many more have performed better. Then the next one is success initiative for 5th and 8th grade. This one is we have to present our data by special population. So this is our bilingual ESL data. It shows the region, the state, the region, and then our bilingual models, which are the bilingual education, which is usually elementary, and we have the dual language program. Then we have in secondary we also have it in elementary ESL. So if a parent does not want their child in dual language, they can say they want them in ESL in elementary, so they don't go to dual language, but they get the ESL support. And then in secondary, we have ESL as well. Then we have students that are considered LEP. The parents have denied services. So that's the next category. And then the total current ELs. So 1/3 of our population is our EL students. The next part is on the distinctions. And this is where the campuses really love to get those, what we call the stars, and get those distinctions in the different areas. So this shows you again for 2019, 20. And I'm sorry, it should be 2018, 19. Yes, I'm sorry about that. And then, it shows you over the history, the next page, I'm on page 28 now. This one shows you the 4-year history of distinctions. And so, of course, we didn't have anything last year because we did not take STAR last year. Then, the next part we have to cover is STAR participation in all of our attendance, graduation, and dropout rates, as well as we have to present our graduation profiles. So this was our STAR participation. As you can see, Mission CISD was at 100%. Assessments, and then it just breaks it down by different categories for you. The next one is our attendance and dropout rates. You know, we have the big attendance incentives, which has helped a lot. But at 2018-19, we were at a 94.5, a little increase from the previous year. Dropout rate, 7th and 8th grade was 0.3, and the annual dropout rate was 1.3. So this is our leaders. This is where we really target and try to get that below 1%. These are our graduation rates, and it's a lot of data. So overall, we had a 93% graduation rate, but this is broken down by the different levels because now, all of our students will graduate foundation or foundation with analysis or foundation with PLA. Before it was recommended and distinguished, minimum recommended and distinguished, we still carry those because we do have students that are still repeating. We would like for them to graduate very quickly, as quickly as possible, but this is that data. The next one is on our graduation profile, which shows you the graduates by ethnicity, and then the different types of programs. I am happy to say that our counselors and our campuses push the foundation with endorsement and distinguished level of achievement. And the same thing before, we would always push the distinguished achievement. We always want them to graduate at the highest level. Our next part that we really have to target is our college, career, and military readiness. I know it's been a long time, but last June I presented to the board House Bill 3, which is our early literacy and our CCMR. We do feel this is something that we're proud of and we very, very much so target. We feel like we're going to make it to a 95% in CCMR within another, hopefully this year or next year. That's our goal. Our goal is really always 100%, but we're really targeting a higher percent. So these are the different areas that we can get CCMR points. And so this shows you the college, career, and military ready graduates for 2018-19. And so we have college, career, and military total. We were at 83.7. I believe, Mr. Gonzalez, we were looking at like a 1 last year, right? When we get our report, we're pretty, fingers crossed, we were going to hit 90%. And then we have college ready graduates, and the different college ready graduates from TSI students became college ready through TSI or dual enrollment programs or API. These are all courses, the advanced courses. The next page is your career and military. So this is about the certifications. And I will say we're very pleased, that our CTE program, we're always pushing more certifications, more and more, and trying to do more. We're very excited. You heard about the Farm to School program. We're extremely excited about that. So we have a few, we tried to start the bar rate this year because with the situation with COVID and things, but that is something else. Mr. Payne and I we work very closely, and it's always like a little bit more. So we're excited that we're able to offer more for our students, our certifications as well. This is our SAT, ACT. And so we did have a dip at one time in 2012-13. College readiness was a big thing. And so we were hitting over 90% participation in SAT, ACT, but then, with House Bill 5 coming in, it was about careers as well. And so we do still, we target SAT. We do have school day SAT for all juniors, and the district pays for that. And so you can see here our participation and our scores. And this is updated data for last year. This is all the data that's usually lagging data that we have it for last year now. Then our TSIA results, they just changed TSIA. They did a revamp on that, so that is something our counselors did. They emailed me, and I've been trying to watch some of the webinars on the changes, so they're very well versed in that. Then our AP. Now, one of the things with our AP, of course, is children will choose either dual enrollment or advanced placement. So that's where, there's a little trade-off between which route they want to go. Then we have AP dual courses completion for the classes of 2018 and 2019. The first bar is class 2019, and the ring bar is class of 2018. Then we have to report the graduates. Now we not only report on the kids after they walk across the stage, but now we have to monitor them for 2 years afterward. And we get that data through the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. So you can see the state, the region, and the district. And so the graduates that enrolled in post-secondary, this is something that we're trying to monitor. Of course, when our kids graduate with their associates, we would like for them to go ahead and go on for their 4-year degree. But some of them choose careers. And then we have to monitor the data of students that are going to post-secondary without and not having to go into remedial classes. That's what the next second graph is. And we have to report the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board data. I know it's hard to see, but it shows you this is where I got the data from, because that's where we were supposed to get it. And you can see for the class, this past year, the class of 2019-20, Mission Collegiate had 55.3% advancing on to post-secondary. Mission High, 47.3%, and the Veterans, 57.6%. We do have Gear Up back at Mission High School. Those children are freshmen right now. They will be sophomores next year. And so this is the cohort that, of course, years ago, we worked so closely with Gear Up to bump up that post-secondary. And now, though, it's also about certifications, not just post-secondary. Our next part is I have to go through some student information, which is profile data, staff information, and program information. So with this next slide, I'm on slide 44. This is 2019-20 students by grade level, so you can see our numbers for the state and for the district. Students by ethnicity, of course, ours are primarily Hispanic at 99.1%, and then our students that are in different instructional programs, bilingual, CTE, GT, and special education. Then we have our students by special population, again, economically disadvantaged, our section 504. Now you'll notice that we have the data all the way down to our dyslexia and our homeless and migrant. All the data is there that's on the TAPR report. And then for special education, the different types of disabilities. Our next data is the staff information that we have to report. So here you can see professional staff, teachers, professional support. It has the state percentage as well as mission percentage. Then we have our staff by ethnicity, our teachers by years of experience. So you'll notice almost 37% of our teachers have between 11 and 20 years of experience, and teachers by highest degree. The next page shows us the teachers in the different special programs that they're teaching in. Primarily, of course, it is our regular education program. Then there's a little synopsis on staff salary, and all of this is on the TAPR report. And then one of the things that we are working on and very proud of is, and you know that, is the turnover rate. Because I believe 3 years ago, when Dr. Pettis came in, our turnover rate was pretty high. It was like 12 point something. We are down this past year to 9.7 and still working on that, retention and recruitment of teachers. And then we have our
and I want to say 9 because a lot of them got promotions.
That's true. That is.
They didn't leave the district.
Exactly. Thank you, Dr. Pettis. That is true. A lot of ours are promoted, but it looks like they're no longer teaching.
They're no longer teachers.
That's exactly correct. And then you have our campus experience, leadership experience. In the next page is part 3, which I'm almost finished. And this part just shows that, you know, with the state is the one that accredits us as a district. Years ago, it used to be SACS accreditation. The state that gives us an accreditation, but that is based not only on our accountability, but on our financial statements and things. And it shows that we were accredited for 2019-20 school year. It's our accountability, our financial, our data integrity, and our program area deficiencies identified through results-driven accountability, which used to be years ago PBMAS, performance-based monitoring, and it's now called results-driven accountability. And this year we were still identified as our special ed and RDA with our early childhood. So that is, Cruz has a program already there closely monitoring that data. The next part we have to report on is of course our discipline, report on violent or criminal incidents. And this is required that we have a spreadsheet, or well, not the spreadsheet, the different areas. So the next page is that, and you'll notice that we did not have, we had a little bit felony controlled substance violation 7 at one of our high schools, but this is public information that our data and discipline, you know, we have restored discipline. We've been trying to really have good discipline procedures, and of course we went into school closure last year. But I think that everybody really knows we're here to serve our kids, and restorative discipline in secondary has helped as well. Rachel's Challenge, different things like that we try to integrate through our counseling department. And last part of student performance in post-secondary institutions, this shows the grade point average. And so this data, I know it's a little bit hard to see, but you can see that we track this data through the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. So you can see our grade point averages for our students that are at Mission Collegiate, Mission High, and veterans after they left us and went on to post-secondary. Then the last part is the TAPR glossary. So there's in the TAPR glossary is about 50 pages. So if you have questions, you can ask us, but it's all in the glossary as well. Are there any questions?
Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you all. It's totally team effort. I will tell you, it's totally team effort. And so thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Yes, close.
This part of your agenda is closed now, and we're moving on to something else. To our regular meeting, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I couldn't hear you.
Give her some
Give
time.
her some time to log on.
Absolutely.
Yes, we can have, less than 10 minutes, so if you want to take a short break.
So that we can set up the software
Okay.
on that device.
But we closed at 7:36, Ms. Gallardo. Okay.
Thank you.